Welcome and thanks for joining us for this episode on Endpoint Detection and Response, or EDR. So from what I understand, I've heard this term before. From what I understand, this is another thing we can use to detect suspicious activity, but it's more geared towards sophisticated attacks or threats. Is that right?
That is exactly right, actually. EDR is kind of the next evolution in detecting of these malicious threats such as malware and things of that nature. But not your off-the-shelf malware. This is, like you said, I like that term, sophistication, where you have, there's commodity malware out there. If you haven't come across this term before, basically, I can go to these dark web forums or whatever the case is and literally purchase malware out of the gate. And maybe you can even find some on things like GitHub and so on. There's malware zoos and a lot of repositories that have malware that you can just go grab, utilize for your own ends. Don't do that other than for testing, right? But I mean, because you probably infect yourself and then you can deal with that whole debacle, right? But they're very easily detected. They're well known. People know of them. They're signatured out there pretty well. This kind of raises the bar. Now we got a little more sophistication, maybe a little more of a I've tailor-made this malware or attack, as it were, to your organization specifically for you based off of what I know about you, right? But it doesn't just do that. It also blocks those things, not only detects them, but it can also go as far as to go, hey, this bad. I'm going to go ahead and stop that, and I'm going to tell somebody because I've seen something, so I should say something, right? So that's what we like EDR for, and that's why you'll probably have an EDR system and more often than not with today's enterprise environments.
So how is an EDR system any different than like an antivirus?
That's the question of the ages right there, isn't it? Like, because what does antivirus do? It detects
viruses,
malware, right? And then it does what?
It blocks it.
It blocks it.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot like EDR, doesn't it?
Sounds like it.
But there's a tad bit of a distinction.
There's a caveat?
There's a caveat.
Okay.
Right? What is that caveat, you might be asking yourself? That's a great question. Glad you asked. Well, the answer to that question is, wait for it. Yes, it is the fact that AV prevents malware. That's its job, is to try to prevent malware from becoming or infecting your systems. You're like, that sounds like EDR too. Wait for it, right? EDR, again, going along with that sophistication route, if there is a more sophisticated attack, it's most likely going to get past AV. So it's not like you have AV or EDR. You have both. AV is better at checking for those run-of-the-mill, hey, let me grab all these things. Now, of course, some EDRs will kind of have AV built into them as well. But don't get the two things confused. They're still two different things, even if they are in one package, even if they're wrapped in the same wrapper. Got it? So AV prevents malware. EDR detects and responds to malware. That makes it past AV. Sophisticated, been devised. So I do this myself, right? For fun and for learning, I will try to create malicious software packages that bypass AV. And then if I'm not feeling really strong, I go after, see if I can get past EDR detection. There's plenty of EDR solutions out there that you can play with. So, you install one of these things and go, let me put that file on the disk and see what happens. All right, nothing's happening. No one's yelling. That's good for me. Now let me scan it. Let me right-click scan this file. Scan it with AV, scan it with EDR, see if anything happens. If I make it past that, cool. All right, let me run it and see if anything picks up on that, right? EDR should be grabbing these things at this point. Are there ways around EDR? Absolutely. But EDR is a much better mechanism for detecting those one-off, sophisticated, more targeted attacks. So if it does get past your AV system, EDR should be gathering up all those stragglers. Hope, fingers crossed, right? And that's why we use these tools, is to get past those systems.
So you're not using AV as opposed to EDR or vice versa. Probably you're using them in conjunction.
That's right.
Okay, so that makes sense. It's like two defense in depth or whatever. Is that what you would call that?
Yes, defense in depth. It's a layered strategy.
Okay, interesting. I love when this stuff overlaps. Yeah. It's great. So how does EDR, or how does, I guess, this type of system in general work?
All right, so there's just a few steps that generally these things run down. I actually have an EDR system spun up. It's called Open EDR, which is open source. I always try to give you good folks out there that are watching something that you could just get your hands on, make it a little bit more tangible. At least we can look at this, even if we don't have a bunch of, I think I only have one agent installed and running, but here it is. This is Open EDR. Again, free to play around with, enjoy, definitely get your hands on this thing, but there are other, more enterprise and money services out there for that. Let's see here. Obviously, we have a dashboard. This is a summary list of the services that are going on, and you can just kind of scroll through here. Obviously, an alert summary, you'll notice I don't really have any alerts because, well, I have one machine and it doesn't do anything. You have a bunch of dashboarding items that you can work with here. I can look at the endpoint security. I can do event analysis, look at managed security, check out any of the assets that I have. So here I can do device management, user management, network management, configuration templates. I have a software inventory. I can look and see what softwares are installed, whether or not they're in compliance as far as. So there's a lot that this thing can do. Most of these systems, you'll notice that there's going to be a ton of cross-pollination when it comes to things like SIEMs, EDRs, AV, SOAR orchestration, right? That kind of stuff. A lot of times you'll see that stuff, if not all those things, some of those things bundled. So if you're like, hey, that seems more like a SIEM, it's probably got a, it is. It is a SIEM and it's an EDR. Or maybe it's an EDR and a SIEM. You never know. It's all the way you look at it, right? So let's see, what else we got? Of course, you can manage this thing. So if you need to create new accounts or whatever, you can do that. And then you come down here and you can kind of get a little more granular. I can look at the services. I can look at endpoints. And of course, this is an open source solution, so it might not be the best thing for you, but it does really do give you some useful things. So I got total devices. There's one of them there. I can go to audit. I can check out what that does. I can see, oh, look, here are the operating systems that are checking in with my EDR system. So if I had Android, iOS, Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, I can tell how many devices are there. I can click through to those. Just show me the Windows devices. Just show me the Mac OS devices. So on and so forth. What device type? So is it a smartphone, tablet, PC, Windows Server, or something that's more unknown? Obviously, we just have one PC here. And you can continue to scroll through here. And this is looking for security client version on Windows. So do I have any other security installations going on there as well? And then here I have ownership types. Is this a corporate device? Is this a personal device? So it works well in those BYOD environments. You are able to work with all these things. So really cool stuff in here. But ultimately, if you go into, I want to say assets, and we hit, I want to say devices, you will eventually, if I'm in the right spot, which I very well may not be, I think this is where it goes. There will be the ability to generate an agent, right? And this is typically step one, right? Back to Sophia's question of how does this work? Step one, there is an agent that installs onto the device itself. So that would be that your smartphone, be that your desktop PC, your server, whatever. You tell it, what's the operating system that I'm doing? What's the architecture platform? Is it x64? Is it ARM? Whatever it supports, obviously. And then it gives you a download. And you say, generate this file and download that onto the client. Cool. You double click, you install. Sometimes you can push installs. Depends on what kind of control you have over those devices. I push the installation, and now it starts doing fun stuff like monitor and collecting data, user activity, system activity. That's what it's all about. It starts there. That's the step one. Install that agent, and then start monitoring for the purpose of,
because you're collecting data and getting information about how the system works and how users work because you're trying to get a baseline, right?
You're trying to get a baseline, right? The system, so EDRs use a lot of machine learning to make this happen. So that's how they kind of detect these threats. That's how they know whether or not it's something weird that if it's on Sophia's account, like she normally doesn't log in at 3 a.m. from Texas because she lives in Florida. That's an odd thing for her. She normally, based off of our data sets that we've been collecting, and that is the EDR, is that she normally logs in from Florida on Eastern time around 8 o'clock, and then we see the end of use around 5 o'clock. So this 3 a.m. Texas Central Time business is odd maybe I need to alert somebody to that, right? But the only way it can make that happen is if it starts monitoring, collecting that information about her as well as her system, and then builds those baselines. So that's step 2. Once it has enough information, it uses its machine learning algorithms and other systems to build those baselines. Then it takes us to step 3, which is, I still like how we're waiting for this. I'm just gonna kind of move off of there because why? Endpoint security. Yeah, it looks great. There we go. Step 3, which is watches for unusual user or system behavior. Now it knows that she typically logs in from 8 to 5 Eastern Standard Time in Florida. Cool. Now I can see that this is an outlier. Something is strange. So I'm going to start monitoring and looking for unusual behavior when it comes to network activity, things like file access, system changes, if there's any data being exfiltrated or maybe files are being encrypted a la in ransomware attacks, looking for any malware signatures, because you got to remember malware is being updated as far as signatures go for most of these security solutions on the daily, right? If not twice a day. A lot of them do twice a day, right? So it's got a lot of things that's happening underneath the hood, looking for that unusual user or system behavior. Then step 4, automate response and remediation. I don't want to have to get you involved if I don't have to as the EDR system. It's kind of what you bought and paid for, is that you can focus more on things that require your attention and not like, oh, well, Sally in accounting got hit with, some run-of-the-mill malware. Don't worry about that. I got that. I'm EDR. I handle it. I'll quarantine that. I'll remediate that. I'll look for a solution to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Oh, she didn't have the latest updates. Let's install updates. And you can automate that response. Does that mean it's amazing? No. Still a lot of times a SOC analyst will have to get involved.
And even if it handles it automatically or it remediates automatically, do you still get some kind of a notice like, hey, this happened. I fixed it, but it happened.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that stuff will still occur. Well, it should. If you've set it up correctly, yes. It's up to you on what alerts you get or don't get.
Okay, gotcha.
Right? But typically there is an alert set up that if the EDR system had to do something, it's going to let you know that it did it. And it's really good at helping us with like, oh, well, Sally had a password that was not great. So forced a password reset, and I've made sure that the password that she is now using is within compliance of our new password policy, right? So that'd be nice. And then, of course, it comes down to reporting. You were kind of mentioning that, the ability to let people know or give me statistics, right? We saw some of that stuff. I do believe there is reporting systems in here. I can't remember where that would be exactly at. And there's some system templates. There's email notifications, right? So you can come in here, you can set up those email notifications. You got templates to say which email to send. So that's all that alerting and reporting kind of stuff. So this is definitely a place you would want to stop by and go, oh, okay, I've got the send to settings would all go in here. I'll go hit those alert settings. So I've got like some out of the gate kind of stuff, some boilerplate things. New infections have been detected. iOS device removal detected. So when things are being removed from your, like EDR no longer exists on this. It got removed. Did you know that? Because one of the things I would do if I was an attacker and I found EDR system on there was like, I want to make that stop because I don't want to get busted. So a removal is something that's alertable that you would probably want to look at. Let's see what else we got up in here. We got custom variables, registry variables. So things that you can key on that the system can go, oh, if you want me to monitor this and make sure nothing goes sideways on that, no problem. You can put those in there. File groups, and then just tags. You got support. You can create tickets. So if something does go wrong, someone can get alerted and ticketed. There is like a complete change management kind of stuff is usually in line with a lot of these systems to go, oh, not only have I discovered something that you need to be aware of, I've also generated a ticket for you so you can triage this and work the ticket to completion. And then we have information on what happened, when it happened, what you did to fix it, and what the end result was. So a lot of cool stuff going on here. EDRs are definitely the next, like I said, the next evolution in what we're doing to combat malware and targeted attacks. And they are super helpful. They do a very good job of it, and they're only getting better. So that's going to be good for us. And this is why you need to be familiar with these things when it comes to your overall understanding of the security tools and technique landscape. And that's why we're talking about it today, because it does a great job.
So we got to take a look at kind of how EDR works, what the process is usually with these kind of things, and what it actually is, and the fact that it utilizes machine learning, which I think is interesting. And then also, I thought it was interesting that it's not something you would use as opposed to antivirus. You wouldn't use it as an alternative. You would use them together. So if it gets past one, the other one hopefully catches it. So interesting. Thank you for walking us through all of that, Daniel.
Happy to oblige.
Always happy to oblige. And thank you for joining us for this episode. We'll see you next time.